afternoon, and welcome to the Tech That Connects panel. I'm going to start out by introducing our panelists. First up, we have Jeff Day. Jeff, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Megan. Great to be with everyone today. I'm the founder of North 10 Advisors, and I also serve on the Avixa Board of Directors and am an Avixer for life, and really excited to be here today to talk about Tech That Connects.
Anna, do you want to introduce yourself?
Great, thanks, Megan. I am thrilled to be here with you all today. I am Anna Kreider, principal at Entro. It's a design firm with offices in Calgary, Toronto, Zurich, and New York, where I am based out of. And also I'm the president of the Society for Experiential Graphic Design, SEGD. We're an international organization with 43 chapters throughout the globe.
And one thing I just want to give a disclaimer for this panel is that all opinions of our panelists are their own and do not necessarily represent the people that employ them. So with that in mind, next up is Bradford Benn.
Thank you for that. My name is Bradford Benn. I've been involved in the themed entertainment industry and technology industry for more decades than I care to admit. It's somewhere near 3. I currently work for a major theme park and media company designing the next generation of fun.
And last we have Meg.
Hey, I'm Meg, the AV Ninja. General technology nerd, been involved with display technologies for the better part of 10 years, and multimedia immersive environments are my area of particular fascination.
So, and I also want to mention we are all wearing Shure Aonic 50 headphones, so thank you for providing those for us, and please go see their booth. Let's kick things off, and Meg, let's go right to you. How do you use technology to bring people closer together?
Well, I think in several of my personal applications, it's typically about finding common themes through storytelling. So how do you use technology to send the message the right way? Not always like the brightest and shiniest tech, but what is the most meaningful technology and what is the best technology to tell the story? Because at the heart of it, audiovisual is about communication and assisting the message. So to me, it's finding whether that's a media server with some fancy image tracking, or if it's just a microphone and a spotlight, right? It matters about that human experience, that the message you're trying to convey makes it to its audience and does it in a really good way, like a really awesome experience.
Anna, what about you?
At Entro, we are really focused on placemaking and wayfinding. So we're really thinking about what role does it play in terms of connecting someone to place, and how does it make the experience more inspirational, or can we really connect with them? So we're really thinking about if it were more of a wayfinding project, for example, how can we have a behavioral nudge to get someone towards something? We often ignore signs. We gravitate more towards landmarks or moments. And so especially now in this day and age, it's going to be, how do we make people feel safe and allow them to engage with the environment, and what will draw them out of their homes? So that's really where we see the role. It's more of how do we augment the experience and create a sense of place.
Bradford, how are you guys dragging people out of their homes?
Well, one of the big things is something you can't do in your home is kind of our big challenge. Working in a theme park and working on large experiences, it's a communal or group experience. You can't do that at home. It's kind of what happened with the cinemas years ago, where cinemas were going to die because of all of the home theaters. And if anything, cinemas have stayed around because of that communal experience. And as Anne says, there is the importance of getting messages and content out. And as Megan alluded to, there's a whole lot of video that you can do, a whole lot of magical stuff that you've only seen in the movies. but we still have the basic challenge as the theme park of expressing the stories and not using technology for technology's sake. It's one of those things where a great experience could be a character meeting with a 6-year-old for the first time and interacting. There's no technology needed there, and not getting in the way of that experience. There are other things, such as the amount of times I've been asked, what time is the 3 o'clock parade, means our signage and information needs to be a little better. So it runs the whole gamut, but the ultimate thing is we want to immerse you into the experience and not let you think of the outside world. Give you an experience you can only get there.
So how do you guys, and you guys meaning all the panel, decide when technology needs to play a role in an experience? And do you ever have clients that really just want to use the latest and greatest technology and you're like, wait a minute, that's not actually what is going to drive this experience?
Yeah, maybe I'll start off that conversation. I think from a branding perspective, I think there's like in the brand activation world, there's like 3 pillars to what I kind of refer to as the connected brand experience, and that has to do with the entertainment aspect, be entertaining, being connected, and being a community. So one of the things that I think is really important is the community aspect of all of it. You know, what drives people is the desire to be connected to people. And when tech can be used to help amplify a community, then it has a really powerful effect. I posted up an interesting story I came across yesterday about Aldi. I don't know how many of you shop at Aldi. I had my first Aldi experience like during the pandemic, and I was blown away. And the whole notion of the Aldi experience is 90% of what they sell is their own label, and the way that they communicate it and drive that story through digital means as well as through technology applications is super compelling. So I think brands really care about how they drive connectedness within their communities, and are looking for new and ingenious ways to do that kind of thing. Aldi's.
I think Bradford actually really hit on it, where you have to look at what is your experience supposed to be. And that really takes, yes, are there going to be clients or people out there who are like, yes, I want to use this technology. I feel like there's a responsibility on technologists, plates, if you will, to say, okay, yes, right, like I'm here to give you what you want, but is that more important than your messaging, right? Like, balancing that out, articulating to your client or to your customer or to whoever what the ramifications are about that technology and why maybe something else would facilitate the message better. I think when it comes down to using the right technology, you find that's what creates the most magical moments, where you create that suspension of disbelief, and whoever your customer is gets transported, right? You're no longer in a lobby waiting for your next meeting. You're in a space that makes you feel at ease, right? You're in a space that makes you feel something visceral. That's huge, right? But you don't need you don't need an LED VR studio to do that. You just need the right messaging, the right content done well, like not 720p blown up across, a 8K native screen. That would be great. But really taking into consideration, what is that message and what facilitates that the best.
And Meg, content done well that looks great, that's tuned correctly, but also a story that connects, right? So like a well-crafted and communicated story arc. And that's where I think the miss is so often is in tech. We're like, oh man, look at this resolution, it's beautiful. And it's like, if it's out of context and it doesn't convey the story, then it's kind of like, why? It is cool.
And I'm going to agree with you 100%, Jeff. And this is the key thing. No one goes to a Broadway show and says, I want to have a chandelier that falls from the sky, and I need someone to go through a trap door, and I need this, and I need that. But that seems to be what people do with experiences. You always start with the script and the story. The way my company runs it is I'm the subject matter expert on audio, video, and projection. They give me a copy of the script, and there are scripts for theme parks of what they're trying to do, what the experience is, all of that, and I choose what technology is best, because sometimes it's something as simple as a Pepper's Ghost, which, for those of you who aren't aware, it's a piece of glass with light turning on and off to make an image appear. There's no technology in that. It's been around since the 1800s.
Literally the oldest trick in the book.
Yes. So that to me is one of the things that people often forget. And I'm sure Anna goes through this as well when you have clients who want to do wayfinding and tell their story.
Oh yeah, it definitely, and everyone will say, I want one of those apps that do the blue dot thing. It is starting with the brief and understanding what the problem is that we're solving. I love Meg's kind of suspension of disbelief. I think that's a great thing to harp onto, but it's really about understanding what is the content, what are we trying to solve, and then just developing that, understanding what their bandwidth is to maintain it also, because certainly within a wayfinding experience, if it's not maintained, then you stop trusting it and it's actually harming rather than helping.
Anna, do you want to just talk quickly about your role with the SEGD and kind of how working with firms like yours can help integrators and not necessarily compete with them?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, for us, SEGD is a mix of every specialty, because it's really about collaboration. And so for us, myself, I will never say that I could come in and do some digital installation without experts like all of you on this panel. We're the ones who are thinking about the overall experience. We're thinking about how someone's experiencing it, but then we're teaming with fabricators or integrators or whomever we need in order to actually help us take this small pebble of an idea and really bring it to reality. So it's absolutely not, and I think that's across the SEGD, that's really what we really thrive on, is that collaboration and all these different perspectives in the room, to go beyond what our personal skill sets are.
And just for clarification, SEGD is the Society for Experiential Graphic Design.
That's right. Yeah. So it's experiences. It's what, it's really thinking about that broad range of what is that experience that we're creating for people, whether it be retail, a city, a hospital, anything.
So we say the word experience a lot, even on this panel. Avixa uses it a lot, and I know some people are sick of hearing it. But from your guys' perspective, why is that word still important, and why do we need to continue to use it?
So I think I've based my career on trying to make people really feel like they're someplace else than a auditorium with some lights and some music coming in, right? In the entertainment industry specifically, your bread and butter is making people feel something, is the experience, right? That can be done through things like certain theatrical productions will put scents into the air. Casinos do it, right? It is all to really have a neurological effect to make you feel something. I think technology is best used when it really creates that illusion, right? I think, I have heard so many people be like, oh, well, what is the experience? It doesn't really matter, because as long as the tech works, then the experience will be great. And that's not always true. And that's in conference rooms, or that's across, live entertainment. What matters is that the person or persons sitting in the space, whatever that space is, walk out of that and either don't know and don't care what the technology was because it was just that seamless, or were totally transported out of their daily lives and for a couple of minutes got to feel something exciting and great, and you know, we're like, wow, that was cool, right? We do it for the wows.
I'd also
Yeah.
say it's what we remember. I mean, regardless of when we go somewhere or if we're on a virtual situation like this, it's the technology, it's the experience, it's the way we feel when we're in that environment that we remember more so than the whatever we were there to do.
Yeah.
So I would say it's such a critical world because we all can impact the way people feel and remember and experience and environment.
I think what's important to me is that I like to think of it as the word experience is both a noun and a verb, you know, and it will always be relevant in both contexts, right? So noun in the sense that we observe something and we experience something like what Meg described, and a verb in terms of the sense that to experience something is much more of an active and an interactive thing, you know. So I think that why this is important is because, you know, I remember back in the early telepresence days at Cisco, we said it was all about the experience. Really expensive video conferencing was all about the experience. It was one button to push. It was high quality video. It was really expensive codecs that pushed, 5 meg per codec, 15 for a 3 screen, and drove massive need for bandwidth acceleration. But today, the term experience refers to user experience, and we're now in the destination world, right? Where experience is both noun and verb. So to me, I think that it'll never be irrelevant. It'll be abused and overused, and should always be sort of attached to its outcome, whatever the outcome is.
So Kaz has a good point. Can a meeting room truly transport you if you have the right AV in there? You're muted, Bradford.
I think somebody asked a holodeck question too,
Yeah.
Bradford. So that's definitely got to go to you.
Yeah. So I think people miss, like we just said, the mute situation. That's a bad experience. The space bar is supposed to mute and unmute me. Apparently it didn't. But also the thing of how much time does someone have to spend thinking about the technology? The example I use is for those of us who shop at Amazon, how many of us will buy the frustration-free packaging instead of the thing that comes in the blister pack? Because the experience of opening that box. And I know this seems small, but this is one of those things I work at because the experience for my company starts at the parking lot. If you're having trouble parking and it takes a long time and you don't know where to go because there's no signage, you can't remember where you park and all that, and you're already stressed before you get into the park or before you get into the movie or the building or the theater, wherever you're going, that's already started to change your experience. And that's one of those things that a lot of us kind of miss, of the technology of I can press a button and the microphone mutes and unmutes. Simple, easy. Explaining that to 70 people, a little harder, but it's part of the experience that we have to simplify. A conference room experience can be virtual, like we are here, where all 5 of us are talking, but none of us are in the same location, probably not even the same time zones. And it works. So yes, that experience happens. It's how hard is it to set something up? How long does it take to repair it? All those other things that people forget as an experience actually are. It starts at the very beginning. Is it easy to buy a ticket for the movie theater? Is it easy to park? Is it all these other things? It's not just the let me go in and watch the movie, because you need to get people in there and in the right frame of mind. It's one of the reasons that some things just seem so polished and so much attention to detail, and people go, oh, it's not that big of a deal. You take all those little pieces together and it makes a big deal. The joke I use is at my company, one of the things that happened is we were missing a voiceover. And so the AV tech at the time, the lead for the project, went to a recording studio. This is 20 years ago. and recorded a quick scratch vocal just to make it work. Well, that's been playing for 20 plus years. And now when there's new voiceover needed to be done, he still does it because it's that attention to detail of it's part of what you experience.
And Bradford, I think you really hit on brand management and that attention to detail impacting, for specific brands. It is literally the minute you cross a threshold of a building or a parking lot or anything, that's going to start mattering. Like your experience begins the minute you get out of your own space.
Think about airfare. Think about why we travel with the airlines just because of loyalty, because they treat us better. That's the perfect example. Travel sucks. But if you stay with one airline, travel sucks less. And we'll do that.
You don't want to get back on a plane, Bradford?
So in my previous life, I did 1,000,000 miles butt and seat. So good not getting on a plane for a while.
So speaking of travel and COVID and experiences, how are experiences going to change post-COVID? And particularly right now when we're not really having live events, everything's virtual, people aren't really getting together. How is that whole world changing?
Oh, it's the best of times and worst of times.
Oh, great quote. Let me throw out an idea. I think personally, it's like the virtualized everything is just not getting it done. There's aspects of it that are great, but it just never will be enough.
Except for this event.
Except for this event is hands down the best virtual event ever. I think there's three things that when I'm talking to major brands, or I'm talking to people in the event world, or just how people are thinking about it, I hear them describe three things. Number one, it's got to be live, it's got to be virtual, and it's got to be digital. And I think we've compartmentalized these three things, pretty good up to now. Where now we're saying, no, we're going to go all virtual. It'll never be all virtual, and it'll never be all digital, and it'll never be all live. So great brands are connecting the experience, right? Because they're saying, we're going to think about all three of these, and we're going to deliver against it, and to me, that's the coolest part about this, is they've all been great, but now they have to be interwoven to be successful. That's what I think. I'd be curious what my panelists.
I agree. And in some ways, I think from an experience standpoint, what has happened to us in this kind of forced new world is that it's been a shakeup. We had all been cramming into one place. Everything had been quite rigid. And in some ways, it's actually opened up to maybe experiences can be a little bit more tailored to have more of an individual one-on-one. Maybe actually there can be more room to breathe rather than cramming us all in. Maybe there's actually some flexibility now in terms of events where they are online plus in person. We have more of a say now as participants to be able to kind of demand a level of humanity, I think. So that's my hope, is that actually humanity's brought into everyday experiences, whether that be walking down a city street or attending an event. So it can be on your terms a little bit more than it ever had been.
100%, Anna, totally agree with that. And I think, I mean, even for the virtual aspects, we've all had to morph into this, world of the virtual conference. And that's when we all kind of were like, oh, well, this is okay. Could it be better? Oh, absolutely. Right. But we haven't had the drive yet to go that way. And I think absolutely when it starts with the human aspect, that's when technology is its most successful, right? It's like, does this facilitate the humans using it? Great. Does it facilitate it well? Does it do it excellently? Does it do it superbly? Right? All the layers of it's okay to this was amazing. And to highlight that for you, especially Kev Talbot, when you walk into a conference room and you didn't have to do anything and it went off without a hitch, that feels amazing.
So
sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things is talking about virtual beyond this conference, which is amazing. You know, there are examples where it's done poorly, in my opinion. Once again, my opinion, and I know I'm going to upset someone, but if you watch an NBA game currently, or you watch a hockey game currently, the experience as a viewer at home is 100% different, because the NHL did the let's cater to the home viewers, but let's still keep it a hockey game. They have the right announcers there. They've put up video that's only for, you know, to see us. Rogers Center, which used in Toronto, the East Coast bubble, when someone scored a hat trick, they still dropped hats on the ice, even though there were no guests there. They still played the music. At the end, instead of having the video that says, you know, get home safely, drive safely, it says, be careful getting up from your couch. They've embraced the virtual and
That's
made
great.
it right. Whereas you look at the NBA and you're kind of like, I'm playing, as someone said, EA Sports, and there are these flat pictures there of people. And to me, that's the virtual and the virtual experience of, I've been watching hockey all day. Don't tell my boss, but you know, it's on at 2:30 till 2:30, and I'm like, I can watch this all day. It's exciting. Basketball, I look at it, and same thing with baseball. I look at it and go, they're playing the game, but there's no reason for me to watch it. I can read the score tomorrow.
What if somebody was controlling them with a controller, though? Would that make it a little bit different?
Yeah, but that'd be called PlayStation.
That's my point. So here's a thought. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the event Burning Man, which happens every year. This year, Burning Man did not happen. Blacktop City. But Burning Man transformed into, instead of Blacktop City, it's called Blacktop Sky. And it will happen at the end of August, early September. And it's called Burning Man the Multiverse. I believe that there will now be two events: Burning Man, Blacktop City, and Burning Man, the Blacktop Sky. You know, and so this is the beginning of having to look at things as digital, live, and virtual. People will see the opportunity that exists to connect them, and it'll never be enough to do it just one way. You know, so forevermore, you know, we get to look at things, I think, through three lenses.
So do you think going forward, everything is going to be a combined, like a hybrid event?
I think major brands are going to adapt their strategies to do that, because I don't think major brands are happy with 100% virtual. They still want to touch consumers, and I'm using major brands as a backdrop, but I think the same, you know, is true of industry associations. I think the same is true of, you know, other groups, is that we will crave live, virtual, and digital. We're going to crave it all. You know, we're not going to say it's enough. I mean, Meg describes some great immersive. You know, it's like we crave it, and we're going to expect it in corporate just like we do in theme. You know, there'll be no difference. We want it in both places, and we want it at home. You know, that's called AR/VR, right? So, right.
And I do think that's already happening. We just haven't realized it's happening. If you look at some of the sports venues, the idea of making it so that you can use your iPhone and use all of your electronic devices while watching a sports game is amazing, because fantasy football makes it so you can play virtually and all these other things, and it brings it all together. Yeah. It's even the idea of you can shop at, you know, pick your hardware store and go, I'm looking for this, and it goes, oh, it's in aisle 63, bin 9. You know, so I think it's already starting, and it's still that experience of, I don't have to talk to someone. The digital signage is current. I know when that's in stock. All of that quickly and easily. So I think virtual and physical are going to start blurring more and more. It's just a matter of course, not just for events, but for everything else.
And I think productivity is also going to start seeing that too, with everybody working from home. You know, some people are faring better on getting things over the line, and that experience in terms of like people relations, human relationships, some of them are, you know, you'll have a variation across this, you know, the human space as well. Some of us really love the fact that we don't have to be in a cube or in a you know, the wide open spaces with other people. Um, but other time, you know, but there are other times where, you know, we do crave that human internet interaction and that connectivity. So the further that we blend virtual, digital, and live, right, where you are literally covering the gamut, and as long as those experiences can be evolved and better, I mean, alone, look, I love watching the virtual conference world in the last 6 months. Like,
Yeah.
virtual backgrounds becoming huge, expressing our individuality through virtual conference has been huge. Emojis, you know, everything, like, you know, being able to put, you know, layovers on and doing your own productions. It's incredible to see the rate that technology is keeping up with, along with highlighting serious concerns in our day, right? Security, big one. We all heard how that went with certain manufacturers. So, I mean, unfortunately, and I mean this is, it is the best of times, it's the worst of times, because it's terrible what the world is going through right now. But
Yeah.
it is amazing at the ingenuity and the innovation that we are seeing and how fast it's moving. That's exciting.
So, you know, I saw something the other day. I live in Southeast Michigan, and there's a restaurant in a small city called Fenton called The Laundry, one of my favorite places to go to lunch. And in the food and beverage market, when I sat down, there were no menus, but there was a big QR code like on the table. And so I literally pulled out my phone and I scanned the code and I had the menu. And I said, well, that's clever. I sort of figured that out without being prompted. And I asked when they came to give us drinks, you know, what, you know, this is a cool idea. Who came up with this? This is, we don't want to give you menus. We don't want you to touch anything. You know, we want to be able to just clean the surface. And I didn't have to be told, hey, you should use your phone for the menu. You know, it's just like, it just did it. And it activated an experience in my mobile device that I thought, goodness, what else could they do with that? You know, and anybody who's thinking about experience in so many different spaces, you know, simple things can go a long way to really transforming how we interact as well. And so it just is sort of limitless. You know, your mind starts to pop when you start try to think of it all, you know?
I think you pick up on a great point, is that this is our moment in a way. We have to, the world has to change. And so it's our moment as experienced designers to help push things forward and make it move quickly, because it has to. So I think it's really exciting that we can impact someone's safety, their perception of safety. We can impact the experiences that we all have.
Yeah.
And so it's a really exciting time for us as a profession.
Yeah, Anna, you bring up a really great point. I've always been inspired on the SEGD website. If you haven't gone, go to segd.org. They have highlight projects that talk about the communities, you know, and they have always inspired me because they're so advanced in terms of the transformational aspects. And I'm a believer that if we don't jump into the conversation around transformation, that, by the way, is the multi-trillion-dollar change. It's digital transformation, you know, and you know, we're not even talking really about it, but the way we jump into it is through the experiences that are being created, and then they're not just destinations, but they're others. But I love the projects because those project summaries are just killer. They're really cool.
Thanks.
So this is a good note to end on. We're going to start wrapping up and asking some of questions from the audience. So one of the questions is, a lot of stores have closed during COVID, whether it was temporary or permanent. What is it going to look like when things reopen, and what are the in-store experiences going to look like?
Well, my personal opinion, because I was actually thinking about this while Jeff was talking, it's going to be, I think stores are going to start coming back because people are going to want to get out of the house, and people are going to miss the browsing aspect that you don't quite get with going online. The example I use is, you want to talk about a multi-dimensional, multi-format situation. Look at books. It used to be go to a bookstore, browse, pull a book out, take a look. Now bookstores are really having some trouble because of online purchases. But then you also look at it's available as an audiobook, as an ebook, as a movie, as a revised movie 20 years later. All of these things show that this is going to change, but I still want to go to my library or my bookstore and go look at it. And I think that's going to start happening because the amount of things that you just can't do online of the compare this book to this book at the same time and look at the back covers, or the go in and talk to someone who knows what's going on. You know, for those of us in the AV world, we can all kind of chuckle of you go to Best Buy and you ask for a TV with a 59.97 frame rate and they don't know what's going on. You go to a higher end store like a Magnolia, which I realize is Best Buy, or your local store where they know you by name, and they're like, oh, I think you'll like this because of blah, blah, blah. So I think the smaller stores with the higher touch, the higher experience are going to be coming back, because I think we as humans miss that and are realizing what we've given up for convenience. But that's
I think, yeah, I think that human aspect too, like, I remember coming home and telling my husband this story. I went to go buy some new clothes, and I had the best customer service experience of my life. This woman was so attentive, gave me my distance because I don't particularly like people, right? And but she was like, she was so attentive, and then she was so caring about, she's like, hey, if you really like that, I think you would, you know, this sweater really seems, you know, like right up your alley for your style. And I walked away feeling really valued as a customer, and I went back to get like a second pair of jeans from there or something, and the woman was there with her manager, and I was like, I just want to tell you, she's amazing. She really made me feel appreciated, and like she was there to help me, and that I had, you know, I didn't need to have my best friend who lives 3,000 miles away to tell me my, you know, rear end looked big in jeans, right? She was there to be my, you know, temporary best friend to help me pick out clothes. That's such an intimate experience that really made an impact on me. That happened almost a year ago, and I'm still like, that was such a good customer experience. So the human aspect, to bring it back to like what Anna kind of really kicked it off with, was that human interaction. That matters.
Yeah.
Meg, I think you just renamed our panel. I don't particularly like people.
Have you not met me before?
Wow.
So we have a question from someone. For people, young people who are getting involved in the AV industry, where do you think that they should go to learn in terms of courses and technical knowledge, and also to develop those skills and abilities?
Yeah, you know, I actually responded in the chat with a link to the Avixa Foundation is one place you can take a look. The Avixa Foundation is all about development of future talent within the space and the industry. And there are even scholarships available for individuals who are seeking to develop careers. So I think the other part of it is find a mentor. You know, it's like, you'd be shocked where you'll find mentors. I would get out on LinkedIn. I would maybe find a dream company or an organization that you're intrigued with. LinkedIn has a feature that allows you to sort of say, I'm open to mentoring and mentorship, and it may even help you through their algorithms to find someone unique. But take the initiative for sure. Don't let it die. I mean, I'd love to hear what everyone else thinks. I always think you don't wait. Yeah.
I think for some of us who, you know, like I came from a very small town where AV wasn't exactly, you know, I didn't know what it was, but getting involved with local theater, getting involved with, you know, with your local house of worship, whatever that may be, right? Where you see it, hotels, that, you know, like any space where maybe your parents threw a party, or like a workplace had a party that involved a microphone, go up and ask the sound guy what he's doing. Not during the show, but like afterwards, or don't do that. That'll be bad. But you know, if you see someone in all blacks wearing a lot of tools around their belt, you know, I don't think I've come across, even the curmudgeonest of curmudgeons has never been so deflective of being asked a question. And that's what makes this industry particularly special to me, is generally, even, you know, even the people who just don't like people like me, I'll answer any question. Hit me up on LinkedIn and I'll be glad to give you a full-blown experience. The trick is to get me to shut up.
All right, Meg just opened it up, folks. I mean, if you want a mentor, I think she's taking them by the hundreds. So you should take her up on that.
I also want to recommend, and Gerald Stevens put this in, SynodCon's a great resource. The list, their listserv, I've learned a whole bunch from, and I've been a member for a while. It's as supportive as a VIXA. I've met people I've never thought I'd meet. But the other thing that I tell anyone who asks me, if you want to be a good AV person, you have to sit on the other side of the table. And this is something I learned in college theater. I didn't know what it was like to be on stage and performing and knowing what I needed from the AV people until I went on stage and performed. I suck at playing guitar, but the band I was working with said, you have to come up and play a song with us so you now understand what it's like. And then I got such a better attitude, you know, understanding. So to me, that's the other side of the see what people are experiencing and how you can make it better for them and easier for them. And that's a great way to learn. Also, experimenting is great. I don't recommend, you know, high voltage amplifiers, but starting with little Arduinos and starting to run audio through them and going into Audacity, an open source editor, so you can start learning frequencies, going to various companies that have online tools so you can learn to hear, you know, the different tones and feedback. To me, the best is watching a younger person who could not get feedback out of a system because they didn't have an RTA to show the spike. But because I had learned my tones and done all that, there it went, because I know that speaker has a bump at 325. But to Meg's point, explain that to the young and go, you need to go learn your tones, because it's really easy as the old person in the group for me to go, oh, you young people don't know what you got going on. You're never going to know. Nope, it's my job to go, here's what you need to learn. Here's some sources for it.
And Anna, let's give you the last word.
Oh, no, I think this is all great advice. I mean, honestly, the biggest point is get yourself out there, figure out who you want to talk to, and don't be afraid to just reach out to them, because most times they're going to do it. And find that organization that is your home, because a lot of them are communities and amazing resources. And so it's just, it's all on you, but you will get a lot of return if you just reach out. People are happy to help.
And I did see somebody in the chat mention CTS certification in the book. So if you are looking for that, I know Hope Ross is here. You can chat her. She has a study group going on. So if you're interested in that, I'm sure she'd be happy to add you to that. So I want to thank all of you for being here today. Jeff, where can people find you?
Hit me up on LinkedIn. That's my most active. So Jeff Day, North 10.
Anna?
Yeah, LinkedIn is a great one, Anna Kreider. Or you could just anna@entro.com. You can email me directly as well.
Bradford?
So I'm usually hanging out at our friendly media company, avnation.tv. I'm on the Twitters and on the LinkedIn as Bradford Benn with 2 N's. And I'll be hanging out in Orlando for a little while longer, I think. So maybe you guys should all come down for InfoComm 2021, and we can do this panel live, not virtually.
Nice.
And Meg?
Oh, LinkedIn.
Okay. So you can find SCN on Twitter at SCNMag, or you can read the latest AV news at avnetwork.com. And be sure to head to the exhibit hall, check out our exhibitors, and visit all of their booths, because we're going to pull the passport to prizes shortly after we have the Wolf Vision closing keynote. Thanks for attending.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.